Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Your wife rocks. Only $6 for the win? Best smelling yard in your HOA, OP. Here we go. We have to use weed killer on our lawn? Fine. We've lived in this neighborhood for 15 years now, and the HOA board, like many, is mostly made up of the grouchy old people who have too much time on their hands. Sometimes it's fine for a while, and then someone new takes over and has some vendetta to pursue. I guess we were due for the pendulum to swing. Our front yard has a few big trees and is thus entirely in the shade. We've tried to plant grass seed a few times, but there's just not enough sun for grass to thrive, so it's mostly low ground cover. No idea what kind, but it's green and we keep it mowed. For 13 years, it was fine. Then last year, we got a nasty gram from the HOA. We had weeds. According to the bylaws, we needed to prove we were using chemical lawn treatments to kill anything that's not grass. Crucially, the rules don't require us to hire a weed control company, although that's what they expected. We just had to provide proof in the form of a receipt for money spent. My lovely petty spouse went on Amazon and ordered a $6 spray bottle of the most woo-woo, new-age homeopathic weed killer she could find. I think the main ingredient was lavender oil. We dutifully spritzed the yard a few times, sent an action shot and a copy of the digital receipt, and thanked them for their concern. The lavender oil, shockingly, did nothing. We didn't actually have to kill the weeds, though, just try. We've heard nothing from the HOA since, and the front yard still has almost no grass. And our second story. The time a customer argued with me about taxes to the point I cried. I've dealt with a lot of rude and verbally abusive customers before, but recently I became a manager, and this happened on the night that just me and two other coworkers were closing. So being the only manager there at the time, this situation was on me to handle, and the man wouldn't take anything I said as an acceptable answer. Me is me, HM is horrible man, Paul is the high school kid who was working on HM's boat, aka his pawn. I work at a boating supply store with an extremely lenient return policy. Basically, as long as you can show proof of purchase, we'll take back absolutely anything, even if what you're telling us is a bold-faced lie. We'll sell an extended warranty on electronics, and if something goes wrong with them, you can bring them back in and get new ones immediately. But of course, this story isn't going to be as simple as that. So Paul walks in with two subwoofers that have rusted and tells me he's working for HM and shows me the warranty for them. These are about $200 a piece. Remember that for later. Paul, I have a warranty for these and need to get two new ones? Me, okay, perfect. Let me see if we have them in stock. So I look up the SKUs, and of course it's now a discontinued model. This is where it gets fun. There's a lot of different sections in the store, and marine electronics is not my strong suit, so I explain this to Paul, and he helps me look at the specs of the new version of the subwoofers, and we decide that the new model, which is about $350, would be the right replacements. At this point, Paul is on the phone with HM explaining the situation, and while I can't hear the entire conversation, I'm able to pick up that HM wants these new ones to be honored at the $200 price so that he wouldn't have to pay anything extra. So me and my coworkers go on the hunt for the newer subwoofer, and we have one. At this point, the money's on a gift card, the full amount, taxes included. Paul makes it clear that HM is insistent that we have the other subwoofer at our store ASAP. I tell him the other smaller store about 30 minutes away has one, but since they close earlier than we do, I can't call to make sure the system is right in saying they have one in stock. So Paul talks to HM on the phone some more, and they decide that Paul will just have to drive up to the other store tomorrow to get the other one. We now begin to check out. I honor the $200 price for the $350 subwoofer, but we quickly realize that there will not be enough money on the gift card to cover the taxes of having both of them at the reduced price. Upon Paul telling HM this, Paul hands the phone to me. HM, I already have to send my guy and pay him more money for tomorrow and go get the other one? Why isn't this an even swap? Me, it is an even swap on our part. The taxes must have gone up, and I don't have the power to change or take off taxes owed. Now, this is where HM starts to set up his vague dominance over me to try and make me do whatever he wants. HM, I'm so tired of this crap. I've had to call corporate so many times, and most recently they gave me 1,000 points for my trouble, and here we are again having trouble. 1,000 points in our system equates to $40 in cash certificates to the store. We're sitting here arguing over $6 in taxes. It also tells me that this guy is quick to call corporate and complain about anything in order to get rewards. Me. I'm sorry, but there's really no way for me to change the amount of tax it's charging. You'd have to either call back or have Paul come back in tomorrow when the store manager is here, and maybe he could do something about it. HM. So what you're telling me is this is going to cost me more money? I know there's numbers you can call. This is a multi-million-dollar company, and you're telling me there's nothing you can do? You guys aren't honoring the warranty. This is unacceptable. At this point, we're taking a $300 loss to make this guy happy. But of course, we aren't holding up our end of the deal. Me. Okay, let me go give my store manager a call. Of course, my manager doesn't pick up, and neither do any of my other managers, so I go back and tell him there's nothing I can do for him tonight at this point. Me. Okay, sir, I wasn't able to reach anyone, so there's nothing I can do about the taxes tonight. I'm sorry, but you'll have to come in tomorrow when the store manager is back to see if he can do anything then. HM. I'm paying P a lot of money to fix my boat, and I don't want to send him back there tomorrow. I'm supposed to ask my daughter to take time out of her day to go back tomorrow? So you're telling me this is going to cost me money either way? Now, the way he set this question up was so that I was going to be the bad guy either way. If I said yes, I sound like an ass, and he'll call corporate because he's clearly quick to do that. And I can't say no because there's legit no way for me to fix this problem as of tonight. So I try to de-escalate the situation, but we always end up back at, so this is going to cost me money, yes or no? He finally gives me this line. This is a $1 million company. There must be someone you can call. Go call them. At this point, we've been doing this for an hour in total, and I'm mentally exhausted from trying to help this man. As I hand the phone back to Paul, I start to tear up, and Paul sees this. I hurry to the back to go call the customer service number, who I know can't waive taxes, but I'm feeling out of options at this point. I tearfully get on the phone with them, and they say while they can't give me a gift card to cover the tax or anything, they suggest using, and essentially abusing, the discount button to take yet another $6 off the transaction. Once I recollect myself, I head back up and explain that I'm going to try and take more money off, and this appeases HM. The system lets me abuse the button, and at this point, my mind is fried. I had drawers to close and customers who needed help, and this had gone on for too long. Basically, it came out to having 40 cents left on the gift card. Paul left, and that's the last I heard from them. My coworker who went to high school with HM's daughter told me that the girl is still in high school, and I can't get over the fact that this man was acting like his high school daughter's time was indispensable. I also later found out we aren't really supposed to price match the new model to the discontinued one, so this guy got off saving so much money, yet he still had to break a 19-year-old female down to tears. I think it's funny that HM thought it was okay to make me cry, but if it was his daughter, who isn't so far off in age to me, he probably would have been outraged. Paul was extremely apologetic and clearly embarrassed that his boss acted like that. He even said that if it still didn't come out as even, he would just pay the small tax and not tell HM about it. As if the lowly store employee has any say over taxes done by the government. And our next story. Neighborhood restrictions sued settlement? 3 years ago, I moved into a nice neighborhood. No HOA, but a few restrictions, such as a house has to be so big, lots have to be maintained, house must be mostly a certain material, house must be so far from the road. About 3 pages of minor things. One thing the restrictions say is, changing this fact, red paint such as iron base must not be used for any purpose on any part of a house or building. Let's say when the restrictions were made, red paint used to be only made out of iron, but recently a new type of red paint that's silicone-based came out. The iron red paint would fade and rust and look bad, but the new silicone-based red paint doesn't rust or fade. Now in the neighborhood, there are some things painted red and have been red since they've been built. Some back patios have red roofs. One house has a big red accent roof over the front of their house, all the newer silicone-based red paint. I built a building in my backyard and painted it red, but it's, let's say, silicone-based red. It won't rust and fade like iron-based red. All is good until a few weeks after it's built, we get served with a lawsuit from the original developer telling us to stop building and stop painting the building red. Too bad it's built. The plaintiff agrees to not go to court to stop building because it's already built. They don't care that it's no iron red. Red is red. Almost 2 years pass. My lawyer says the plaintiff has changed their lawyers twice and is currently without legal representation and is wanting to settle. Their proposition is to remove the red paint on the front and one side and paint them bright white, expensive, to appease a noisy, complaining Karen neighbor. This doesn't sit right with me. To me, it should either be all or nothing. According to the restrictions, there is no halfway or exceptions here, and then by the fact that they're even proposing to ignore the restriction, should void the red paint restriction altogether. And that there are houses with red paint on them also voids the restriction too. And our last story. Forced to join a HOA. So I just bought an older historic home. The reason for the move was that I was in a terrible HOA and decided to get away from there, even with the loss of money on the sale of the house. At the time of the sale, the HOA president told me she would sue me if I sold the house below the average value in the neighborhood because it would be a loss to the entire community. It turned out to be the biggest bullcrap and a bluff, but Karen would do anything to prove her point. So thank God I sold the house and got out of there safely. It was difficult enough to find a neighborhood that didn't have houses like that, since it seemed like every new house was burdened with some crappy HOA. So I resorted to a neighborhood that was built right before World War I. But I think if Karen had one contact with you, the other Karens feel it, and the HOA started following me in the new neighborhood. The neighborhood is in the process of being gentrified, as I've heard people talking about who are interested in eventually forming an HOA to protect the interests and historical integrity of the neighborhood. And a local Karen said she'd make me join if she had to eat grass off my lawn. I don't know what she meant, but she had a weird accent, so maybe that's not exactly what she meant. One day she came in and said that her husband sells cars in a Mercedes showroom, and because he talks to important people, they'll force me to join the HOA. LOL. I also got some letters, supposedly from a lawyer, but mostly it was a bluff, that the police would arrest me for not improving the neighborhood for everyone, and that they would fine me $1 million. I think this Karen has lost her standards even for her big name. Thank God she's just crazy and not some rich, educated, snobby bee who could really make me problems. I don't know if this is worth sharing, but in contrast to the past HOA and their crazy rules that were actually legally enforced, I'm feeling relieved. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.